از روزه حسین دل زارم آبرو گرفت.
The topic for our first lesson will be greetings, which is a good general topic to start upon whenever you're trying to teach any form of language or learn any form of language. Just you have to know obviously how to initiate conversation with someone, how to respond, because developing conversation is just your general basis to knowing a person, getting to know people. Starting upon our first word, it will be Salaam, which is the general way to say hello in Farsi. I'll repeat it for you guys. Salaam, transliteration will be Salam, which is hello, and Salam, Salam, hello. Our next word, let me introduce you guys. We'll be learning 15 words and 2 phrases a week, inshallah. With the phrases and words will have relation to each other. A phrase to convey how are you doing in Farsi is حال شما چطور است. How are you doing? حال شما چطور است. حال شما چطور است, which means how are you doing? And a usual response to that question will be I'm doing well or I'm doing good. And how to say good in Farsi is خوب. خوب, good, which is how the response to how are you doing, you would say good, خوب. And bad, for example, which it copies the way you say in English, it sounds just the same. You would say bad, bad. So if someone asks حال شما چطور است, you could respond with bad, which means bad, bad, which means bad. And our second phrase, what is your name, which is also a conversation starter, another way to get to know someone, another form of greeting. What is your name? اسم شما چیست? And let me slow this down for you guys a little bit. اسم شما چیست? Let me repeat one more time. اسم شما چیست? And move S is obviously name. S, name, S, name. Moving on to number 5, it is another response to the question حال شما چطور است, how are you doing? You can say I am tired, which would be خسته. You can say I'm tired, which would be خسته. خسته, tired. Number 6, if you want to convey that you are happy, if someone asks you حال شما چطور است, you say خوشحال. خوشحال, happy. خوشحال, happy. خوشحال. If you want to say you are sad, you are down, you aren't feeling the greatest, you would respond with ناراحت. ناراحت. ناراحت, sad. ناراحت. Over here, we have another form of saying the word good. In this usage, though, is not mainly used much. Actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Urdu language, which I'm pretty sure some of you guys will have familiarity with, the word بخیر can be also used with the correlation of صبح بخیر, شب بخیر, and صبح بخیر and شب بخیر, which means good morning and good night. It is the same exact way in Farsi. If someone asks you حال شما چطور است, which is how are you doing, you would not respond with بخیر. Most likely you will not respond with بخیر. It's not the proper response. You will stick with خوب. But if you want to say good morning, for example, good night, which you would, I'm pretty sure it's the same word in Urdu, it's صبح بخیر, شب بخیر. So here the word بخیر stands for good. بخیر, good. بخیر, good. Good, بخیر. And morning, صبح. Morning, صبح. So putting those two together, if you want to say good morning, you would say صبح بخیر. You want to say good morning, صبح بخیر. Morning is صبح. Night, just like I stated right there, شب بخیر. شب بخیر. شب is night. Night, شب, شب. And the way to say evening in Farsi, you would say asr, and yes, this can also be used with the word بخیر as good evening. For example, if you're greeting someone, you could say good evening. You asr, evening. asr, evening, asr, evening. Moving on to our last set of words, we have breakfast, which these are on the tongue. These are harder words to roll off of. But sobhane, it's breakfast. Sobhane, breakfast. Sobhane, breakfast. And moving on to lunch, nahar, nahar, nahar. Actually, the thing with Farsi language is it's very, very sweet off the tongue and it sounds very, very pleasant. And inshallah, if we can move on course by course, 15 words a day, 15 words a week, and you guys can get an overall base foundation understanding of these words, it would be very, very well. As you guys will love these. It's just the way it comes off the tongue is beautiful. Moving on to number 14, we have dinner, which is sham, dinner, sham, sham, dinner. And the goodbye for number 15, which is also, I'm pretty sure Khuda Hafiz it's varied the way it means goodbye in many different languages. It's obviously varied the way it's used, the way it's said. In Farsi, it's very basic, very plain. Khuda Hafiz, Khuda Hafiz, Khuda Hafiz. Every language has its own form of tone, form of sweetness to it when you say it. Farsi, just very plain, very sweet, right off the tongue. Khuda Hafiz, goodbye. Goodbye, Khuda Hafiz. Just say the phrases one more time. If you can ask someone, how are you doing in Farsi? After you would start off with Esme Shama Cheese, which is what is your name? Then you want to move on and say, how are you doing? Hale Shama Chitor As. So put the two of them together. Esme Shama Cheese. And you would say your name, say my name is Raza, for example. And then be like, oh, okay. Hale Shama Chitor Ast. How are you doing? Esme Shama Cheese. Hale Shama Chitor Ast. I'm just going to run through the words one more time for you guys. Get the pronunciation down. So starting off, we have Salaam, which is hello. Salaam, hello. Next, Khub, good. Khub, good. 3, bad, 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 bad. They sound very similar. Number 4, Esm, name. Esm, name. Esm, name. Farsi also doesn't have much throat action, much like you don't have to use your throat as much as you might have to with languages like Arabic. It's very, very plain, very basic. You just have to let it out. Number 5, khaste, tired. Khaste, tired. Number 6, khoshal, happy. Khoshal, happy. Khoshal, happy. Narahat, sad. Narahat, sad. Narahat, sad. Number 8, bekhair, good. Bekhair, good. Also, we put these two together for you guys. After moving on, after I give you guys the morning, nights, and evening. Sob, morning. Sob, morning. Sob, morning. 10, shab, night. Shab, night. Shab, night. 11, asr, evening. Asr, evening. Asr, evening. Now, putting number 8 alongside number 9 and 10, which would be good morning. Sob bekhair. Sob bekhair. Sob bekhair. These words, bekhair is meant to be used after a word like that. Again, it will not be used if asked, how are you doing? That's not the main proper response you would give to how are you doing. The main response you would give to how are you doing is khub, I'm doing well or good. And putting good with night, shab bekhair. Shab bekhair. Shab bekhair. 11, you can also say we have in Farsi, good evening, asr bekhair. Asr bekhair. Asr bekhair. For good morning, good night, and good evening, the basic way to say it, if you're close with someone, you're friends with someone, they're your pals, they're your buddies, maybe to your parents, you would just keep it at asr bekhair, sob bekhair, shab bekhair. There's a formal way of saying it, which you just have to add at the end of the 3, good morning, night, sobetun bekhair, sobetun bekhair, sobetun bekhair, shabetun bekhair, shabetun bekhair, shabetun bekhair, and asratun bekhair, asratun bekhair. You say this if you're talking to someone you would respect, you want to respect them, you would add that etun at the end of it. It gives a little formal sense to the word. Moving on to 12, we have our sobhane, which is our breakfast. Sobhane, breakfast. Sobhane, breakfast. And 13, nahar, lunch. Nahar, lunch. Nahar, lunch. 14, sham, dinner. Sham, dinner. Sham, dinner. And the goodbye, 15, Khuda Hafez. Khuda Hafez. Khuda Hafez. The final two phrases, Hale Shoma Chatur asked, which is how are you doing? Hale Shoma Chatur asked, how are you doing? Hale Shoma Chatur asked, how are you doing? And then if you want to initiate a conversation right off the bat, what is your name? Esme Shoma Chist. Esme Shoma Chist. Esme Shoma Chist. That'll be all for our first class. Said, are there any questions? That'll be all. Thank you guys for joining me today. And inshallah, we will have this class one time a week. And if you guys could go over the 15 words, because every week we will be dropping a new template with new 15 words, with new 2 phrases. As we move on, we may try to increase the amount of words, maybe to 20 words, maybe to 4 or 5 phrases. When you guys can just have that introduction, you just experience to the language. But that'll be all for today. Thank you for joining me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.